Hello everyone and welcome to another transfer show. The rumours are coming thick and fast, so here we are back again. I've got Gareth Roberts and Dan Austin here with me to give the lowdown on all that's come out. And we're going to start with a guy who's been talked about for quite some time now, but there was a new twist to this story that broke last night that got quite a few people excited. Ajax centre-back Matthijs De Ligt. The odds on him signing for Liverpool were slashed overnight from 20-1 to just 4-1 in only one day, which is enough to produce a whole lot of new stories, Gareth, but is it enough to really get us excited?
I don't know. I mean, I'm cynical about stuff like this because I think we've seen it before. I think you've seen odds tumble and odds be closed on certain things in the past around Liverpool and around other clubs, and it's resulted in nothing. And look, it can be as simple as, you know, someone knows an agent, something gets said in a pub or whatever, and it just goes along a chain to someone who's maybe got a bit of money. And that person, once they lump on a player or on a particular move, and you know the bookies see it, the bookies aren't soft. You very rarely see a skimp bookie. Yeah. So they see that, they slash the odds, that then creates the story, and on we go. For me, I don't really see how the transfer makes that much sense to Liverpool, knowing what we know about them and knowing about how they operate. I think maybe 6 months or so ago, you could make an argument for it more in that, you know, you expected Matip, for instance, to move on. But, you know, he's been fantastic in the second half of the season, and it would seem particularly harsh on him to sign another centre-half when, you know you can rely on him now pretty much. You've got Gomez kicking round, who everyone highly rates, obviously. I think Lovren will stay as long as you want Lovren to stay. And then you've got someone like Hoover as well, kicking round as well. You know, this lad's 19 and he's fantastic, don't get me wrong. And if we did sign him, I think it'd be great and it'd be a statement and all that kind of thing. It just doesn't seem like a problem that Liverpool need to solve. And I think, you know, a lot of the commentary around what Liverpool might do this summer seems to suggest that they don't think there's a lot wrong. And you wouldn't, would you? Because you've won the European Cup and you've got 97 points in the Premier League. So yeah, you know, Sturridge and Moreno have moved on and things like that, and you maybe need to sign some potential. But, you know, you're going to pay top whack for this lad, aren't you? You know, Barcelona are interested, Man United are meant to be interested, etc. You can see it being a bit of an auction, and that sort of goes against what Liverpool are about.
It does seem like something we don't normally get involved in, Dan. And Robbo makes a good point. Like 12 months ago, our centre-half stocks probably weren't seen as good as they are now. If you think about the emergence of Gomez over the first half of the season and Matip over the second half. So even if De Ligt was someone who we identified 12 months ago, then by now we're looking at it thinking, as Gareth says, we don't need to get into an auction for this kid.
Yeah, and it's not so long ago at all that we had three centre-backs and they were Matip, Lovren and Ragnar Klavan, which seems like a lifetime ago because back then it really was the position that we all wanted sorted and felt like there needed to be a big name and a lot of money spent to fix it, and we've done that. There isn't an issue at centre-back anymore as far as I'm concerned. Liverpool had the best defence in the league across major courses of that campaign last time around. We conceded a frankly ridiculously tiny amount of goals across certainly the first 19 games. I think in the last 19 it was a little bit more, but still really, really low. That's not just because of Virgil van Dijk, that's because the goalkeeper's brilliant as well, and Klopp's done an awful lot of work clearly with them on the training pitch to make each of them individually better footballers. But I just don't think it would make sense because it's very rare that any football club, never mind Liverpool, has the two most expensive players in a position playing for them, and that's what it would be. If Liverpool were to buy De Ligt for, say, 70, 80 million, whatever it would be, then they'd have him and Van Dijk, and then it's very hard to play anyone who's not those two. Yeah. Because you can't bring De Ligt in and say, well, you're only 19, so you've got to go back to third choice, fourth choice, whatever, while we still keep playing Matip for a bit because he was great towards the end of last season. He's got to start, and he's got to start every single week. And I think what's good about the centre-half situation that we've had at the minute is because there hasn't been one partnership all season long. No. So there was a considerable period where it was Gomez, a considerable period where it was Matip. There was a bit of Lovren sort of in and out around Christmas and January time because Matip only actually gets in because Lovren gets injured again in that Wolves tie. It's important to remember Matip was fourth choice and ends up towards like the last 4 or 5 games of the season actually playing better than Van Dijk, I think, in a strange way. But I think that we've got a main man and someone who plays next to him because it means that as long as Van Dijk isn't injured, and you know that can always happen, a freak injury in training or a muscle problem or whatever, but as long as he's there, whoever's next to him doesn't have to worry about the lads on the other side. So I think the reason why Lovren and Matip together never really worked was because neither of them's the main fella. No. So if you're Lovren, you've got what Matip's doing in the back of your mind a little bit. And if you're Matip, you've got the fact that Lovren might just do something mad at any moment in the back of your mind. So you're sort of always half on the cover for the other defender. Whereas the fact that whichever one of the three that we've got at the minute comes in and knows to play next to Van Dijk and knows exactly what the goalkeeper's going to do behind, means they just play their natural game. They're a lot more relaxed. And I think that's why over the course of the season, all of them have played well. I can't remember any of the three of them having a game where I thought, it was a bit iffy, weren't it? They've all done, I'd say, at least a 7 out of 10 every single time they've played. So to throw someone else into that mix just feels totally unnecessary, especially when, as Gareth said, the team have reached the heights that they have done. And if you're just looking to add 1 or 2 in it to the squad to try and compete with the likes of City, who've maybe got more numbers of quality players, then great. But if you're only doing 2, maybe 3 at most, you shouldn't be doing it at centre-back, I don't think.
No, I agree. I mean, I feel a little bit bad for Gibber now because he's gone into the box and taken over the stats level from Neil and done a whole load of stuff about De Ligt and what he's like as a player. But we don't really need it now. I think we've all decided that we're not going to bother buying him. So yeah, sorry Gibbo. I'm sure we'll use you later on in the show, but we should do the most scale now just to round this one off. Gareth, what are you giving De Ligt out of 5?
1.
1.
Yeah, 1 Mo.
Is that just because he's a nice bloke?
I mean, he's a good player, and I'm sure Liverpool have looked, but I just think price-wise and everything else, nah.
No, I have to say I agree with that. There was a report out in the Echo from Paul Gorst who mentioned that Liverpool are at least 12 months ahead in what they're looking at. So it might have been one that he identified as good, but now we don't need him. So yeah, I'm going to go with 1 Mo as well. Dan?
I'll do 1. They'd probably have to pay him stupid, like getting towards 300,000 or 400,000 euro a week is what he'd probably be asking them for, and it just doesn't make any sense. And then it means that Virgil van Dijk comes and knocks on your door and says, I just won the award for the best player in the league there, and I'm probably a fairly good shout for the Ballon d'Or.
Yes.
And you're going to pay a 19-year-old lad 100 grand more than me? Fuck off.
Yeah.
And then all the rest of them are going to say the same as well, Salah, Mane and everything. So I just don't see a world in which it makes sense.
There you go. Unfortunately, someone else is going to get a very talented player, but we don't really need him, so that's always positive. Now, someone who's not necessarily going to knock the wage scale all over the place, but a very interesting player for me, I think, is Leicester's James Maddison. Now, the Daily Star have recently reported that we have shown an interest in him, along with both Manchester clubs and Tottenham. Now, he's rated at £60 million at the moment, which is a lot of money, but when you consider the team we're fighting against have got £60 million worth of Riyad Mahrez sitting on their bench most weeks, we need to start thinking about having guys who aren't going to be in our starting lineup who cost this amount of money. Dan, I'll come to you first on James Maddison. You've seen a lot of him over the course of this Premier League season. Do you think he could fit into the way we want to play?
Well, firstly, only having sort of, 50, 60 million pound players that don't necessarily start for you. We've got Naby Keita sat there, and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to be fit and firing for the start of the next campaign, you would hope. So those, to me, are that level of player already. I think Maddison looks all right from what I've seen of him. He looks a talented footballer. He can do little bits of everything. He can shoot, he can pass. He seems like he can tackle as well, press from the front. But from whenever I have seen him, he looks like a 10. Like an absolute 10. I'm not playing him anywhere deeper in the midfield. He's not quick enough to play wide. I don't think he could play like down the middle of a 3 up front, for example. And we don't play a 10.
No.
And even when we do 4-2-3-1, we're not really playing a 10. It's Firmino a little bit deeper and Salah in front of him. I don't see a world in which he fits into this Liverpool team. If it was, a different Liverpool team under a different manager at this moment in time, then maybe. If they were looking to play a different shape or something. But I just don't see where on the pitch he gets. And we've got loads of talented midfield players as well. And I think the only way that Liverpool will consider bringing a player like him in would be if Lallana was definitely leaving, which I actually don't think is going to happen. And they were looking for an out-and-out replacement for him and maybe looking to change that shape. And even if they were going to do that, I don't think 60 million quid is the right fee for that footballer, because you may as well just keep Lallana if you're going to do that. Like, I'm not convinced that James Maddison goes on to be better than Adam Lallana. He might be, because as I say, I think he's talented and he's 21, 22, something like that. But right now, he's not a better footballer than him. And over the course of this season, Lallana gets maybe 8 league games, less than 12, certainly, I would think. I wouldn't envisage him getting many more than that, especially because until he got the injury in the new camp, Keita looked like a vastly improved player. Someone who got used to his role in the team, but also the pace of the league, the rhythm in terms of linking the midfield to the attack. He was getting quite a few goals and assists, wasn't he, towards the end of that time? And we were all raving about Chamberlain towards the end of the season before. So I think we're fine in midfield, to be honest. Maybe if Lallana moved on, you'd look at wanting one more body, but then that body could be Grujic staying and doing a year or something like that. I don't envisage them spending any money, to be honest, on a centre mid, and certainly not at that level for someone who, while demonstrably talented, has done 1 year in the Premier League for a team where it's not that difficult to get into that team. There's no one really challenging him for that position. They haven't got another player like that, Leicester. So he wouldn't be one that I would look to take a risk on now. But if it was Arsenal or if it was Man United or someone like that, and I could get him for 40 rather than 60, I'd probably be looking at it very seriously.
Well, let's hope that they're not watching. You make a really good, interesting comparison there with Adam Lallana. It does seem like if he was to come in, his would be the place in the squad he replaced. And I think Gibbo's got a nice little comparison between the two, so maybe we can see exactly what he brings.
So at the top of the agenda today was Matthijs De Ligt from Ajax. Liverpool is still second favourites to sign him, 3-1 at the moment. So I did lots of research on him. I compared him to Joe Gomez. This is just in the league, Ajax for the league versus Joe Gomez. And then also against Joe Mata. But then I thought, wouldn't it be really interesting to compare the Champions League stats as well? Because I reckon Ajax have an easy time of it in the league. So just look solely for the Champions League. Joe Mata versus De Ligt. Found loads of interesting stuff. But then Mo decided to swerve me, so never mind. But basically, the conclusion is Joe Matip's numbers are really good, so maybe we don't need a centre-half. But anyway, the one we will talk about is James Maddison. And James Maddison is a tricky one to compare with Liverpool players because he plays as a number 10. We don't really play with a number 10 at all. So I've compared him, first of all, to Naby Keita. Because he's probably our most attacking midfielder. He's probably the one who maybe would miss out if Maddison would come in. Who knows, more likely to be struggling. But I've compared him to Keita. So these are for midfielder stats, specifically for the midfielder. And as you can see, they're fairly different, but you'd expect that from the fact that Keita's maybe playing a little bit deeper. So Keita's pass completion statistics are much higher, his tackles are much higher. In terms of pressures, they're actually fairly similar, but Keita's much more likely to regain from those pressures. Where Maddison really comes into it, as you maybe expect, is assists. 0.2 assists per game, which is much higher than Keita down there in 0.6 or 7, I think it is. And then fouls won as well, winning a huge amount of fouls, which I'm sure was a great benefit to his team. So doing slightly different roles there, but as I say, it was difficult to find the comparison for Liverpool. So what I have done is have a look at Christian Eriksen. Christian Eriksen plays at number 10 for Tottenham, is deemed one of the best in that role in the country, if not in Europe. So I had a little look at him, and it was fascinating to see how close the stats were for Eriksen and Maddison. As you can see, they're taking a similar number of shots per game. Their XG per 90 is very similar as well. In terms of off the ball, the pressure regains are very similar, which is impressive considering Tottenham, press pretty high. The Pochettino's got them working so hard. Maddison's working just as hard. In terms of turnovers, fairly similar as well. And their passing stats almost identical, around 78%. Where Maddison is outdoing Eriksen, he's outdoing him for touches in the box, which is interesting. So he's getting in there supporting his striker a little bit more. And then also that fouls won stat as well, winning a lot of fouls, which I'm sure would delight the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold if he did come to Liverpool. So, yeah, comparing him as stats bomb do to fellow number 10s, he does reflect really well. So, James Maddison, good numbers, we'll see.
Cheers for that, Gibber. I'm sure we will use you more on the next show. But we'll talk a little bit more about Maddison, Robert. Dan makes a really good point in terms of how we play. He's very much a 10. We tend to be looking for adaptable players who can play in lots of different positions. And we haven't really played with a 10. We haven't really missed not having the Coutinho kind of player in there. So do you see us going to that? We have tried to adapt in previous seasons.
Don't see them massively changing. I mean, the only thing with Maddison is whether he thinks maybe he can adapt them to something else. I mean, that's not uncommon. And, going all the way back to someone like Paisley, he did that with plenty of players as well, where so they're not necessarily pigeonholed to a position, and coaches and managers can see something there that they think he could do something else. Obviously, he's great on set pieces, which is interesting, and I always think you know, rightly or wrongly, I always think players that are that good at set pieces, it shows some form of dedication, because, you know, to be that good at it, you've practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, whereas maybe a lot of people just think, I'm going to go and play FIFA now, can't be arsed. So there's that aspect, and all the reports about him are that he's dedicated, he's fit, he doesn't get injured a lot, and so, you know, profile-wise, I think he fits Liverpool maybe in that respect. But I think what's interesting as well is that, you know, this season, or the season just gone, the season we get 97 points and win the European Cup, you can maybe look at it and say that we got a little bit lucky in that lots of players stayed fit, and lots of the first team, you know, first choice players pretty much played the whole season. Now, is that always going to be replicated? Is that always going to be possible? As Dan said there, you know, you never know in football when things can happen. And so do Liverpool start to prepare a little bit more for that eventuality now they are where they are? Because I wonder, you know, whether, even if you look at the domestic cups, you know, a lot of people say they're you know, virtually valueless these days. Personally, I still don't like that view, and I think, you know, if you win them, it's nice and it's great and it looks like a legacy and all the rest of it. And I wonder whether next season they look to take those a little bit more seriously, and if they are going to do that, then they're going to need more players and more quality and everything else. And the players we talked about will get a game, because you know, you're still going to have to rotate. But if you rotate to strength, the likelihood is that you go deeper into the competition, like we saw City doing. You know, everyone seems to have forgot that they actually won a treble there, but which is quite funny, isn't it? But like, so maybe there's that aspect. But if I'm mowing it, if I'm mowing it,
let's go into the mows.
I think there's something in it, in that, I don't know, just something about him strikes me as a type of player that Klopp would like. I get the system argument though, absolutely, and I also think it's another one where, I don't know, it feels a bit obvious. It feels a bit like, you know, it's not under the radar. Like, I think Liverpool are going old school this summer, back to you know, as much as possible, keeping things quiet, and I really like that. Maddison feels a bit obvious. Maybe I'm wrong. So I think there's more chance than the previous fella. So I'll go 2 modes, but I'm still not convinced.
Okay. No, I take everything you guys have said on board, and I kind of agree with you that it does feel a little bit obvious, does feel a little bit like something that we're potentially already got covered within the squad. But I also agree with you that he does seem to be the kind of player that Klopp does like. So I'm going to go 2.5 mows.
Bit of work for Sam.
Sorry, Sam.
Cutting mows in half on InDesign.
You get to decapitate me. How much fun is that?
Photoshop.
Dan, what are you saying?
I'm going full cynic and going 1 again. Totally don't buy it. I think that, the profile of footballer that he is, maybe Klopp would be interested in if he was still at Norwich and he'd done another season there instead of going to Leicester. Yeah, I think we might be into it maybe, but I just don't see it right now. Certainly not for that price.
Fair enough. Well, I guess the transfer window itself will be the only one who can tell us whether we're talking shit or not. Now, something that I noticed and I was a little bit concerned about is that we're fully into silly season now. You've seen the Mo Salah story recently of him going to Man United. That's it.
What was that in?
Oh, goodness.
The Express, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it was followed up as well, and it was just like, lads, we've won the European Cup, shut up. You know what I mean?
And yeah, it was
6th place Man United with their worst finish since 1975 or something in terms of distance from the leaders in the Premier League, in the league. Nah.
No. And it was all traced back to some quotes that were wrongly attributed to Salah, that were actually attributed to Sturridge, who was standing next to him. So anyway.
I thought you were going to say it was all traced back to Princess Diana, like everything else in the Express.
I mean, there's no evidence that it wasn't, to be honest, so we can leave that one out there. But the point is, silly season is in full swing. We're getting rumours left, right and centre. And yet, we know that we've got a striker who's left, and we've seen rumours of backup strikers. We've also got a left-back who's just left. And I'm not seeing us linked to any left-backs since the season's ended. There were a couple of reports of Ruben Vinagre or Nicolas Tagliafico back in April. And there was an article in May, Adam Hedgebeath from 90minutes.com did one with 6 prospective people for us to look at that included Vinagre, other people like Bernardo from Brighton and Jamal Lewis. But we've not heard any concrete links. Now, there was a lot of talk of Adam Lewis towards the end of last season about how he's going to be progressed through from the youth team. But Dan, it feels a little bit like, as talented as he may well be, God forbid a long-term injury happens to Andy Robertson, surely we can't depend on a rookie over the course of the season.
I agree with that. So you've got Lewis for that side and probably Herbert for the other. At the minute anyway, so you've got two first-choice full-backs, and yeah, if one of them was out for 12 months, you've got to suddenly play this lad. I think that therefore the solution to that is to buy a full-back that does both. And I think that that's what Klopp is into as well, because we've seen this season, Moreno played 5 games, all comps. There's no point in having that footballer. He's literally worthless. You may as well just, in those League Cup and FA Cup games, like the ones that he was playing, play your Adam Lewis then. So if you think Adam Lewis is getting 5 and Herb is getting 5, the thing that you're covering for is either long-term injury to the two of them or fatigue. So Klein was that role for the majority of last season until it pretty much became very clear again that Klopp didn't really fancy him in a long-term sense, and also didn't feel the need to keep him in the short term because he was pretty much backing the other two to get through it. And if needs be, he still had Moreno, he still had Fabinho for right back, he still had Milner. I think the fact that he has options there, although none of them are specialists, means that he'll only do one. So I would try and get someone that equally does right back as well as left back, because Klein was sort of doing both, but more of a right back than a left back. I would try and find a footballer that uses both features as well, and in theory can across sort of September, October, play the Champions League game at right back. And then on the weekend, Trent comes in and plays right back again, and he plays left back and Robertson has a rest. So he's getting probably maybe 20 games over the course of the season, this fella, evenly split between right back and left back. He's not first choice, he's not going to get told he's first choice, there's going to be no bones about that, because I think if you do someone like Tagliafico, who is first choice for Argentina, he's wanting games of footy. So I don't think you can buy someone like that when you've got Scotland's captain, who's been probably the best right back in the world, left back in the world rather, in the last 12 months. He's not going to get a game on the regular. So I think it needs to be some sort of profile of footballer who isn't going to demand games, is happy getting 20, but is also competent enough to play one position for 6 months if he has to, because one of them breaks the leg, and go from there. So for me, I keep touting it, and I've seen it like sort of vaguely rumoured in places, and I think it might just be because I keep saying it. But Bournemouth's Adam Smith, I would quite like Liverpool to buy, because I think he's good. Don't think he's any better than good, but he does both sides evenly well. He himself says that he hasn't got a stronger foot. They're both good. He's a competent footy player. He can pass, he can cross, he can shoot from distance. He's not asking for more than 20 games. And I'm all right with that.
And he looks a little bit like you as well.
Does he?
Yeah, he
Is that a compliment?
I think so.
I've not seen him. He could walk in here. I think I didn't know who it was.
I think it'd be funny that this will now be in the Daily Star. And then you have to discuss the fact that we've been linked to them in the Daily Star, and it's like this weird.
We're through the looking glass here, people. This is what happens. This is how transfers get made. We start right here, trust me. But no, Dan does make a good point in terms of the needing someone who could do both. Basically, he just described we need a 2001 Jamie Carragher, basically. Someone who can do both and still be young enough to be able to progress somewhere else. We looked at Adam Lewis at Norwich. He was someone who took my eye from the article that I mentioned. I've not seen him play on the right, but he does look a talented guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks great, him, actually. I like the sort of vibe around him, and I think it's interesting that, you know, the manager being Farke and everything, and being someone that Klopp likely knows. They play a similar style of football. He's just come up, and he's I think he's player of the year as well for Norwich as well. I guess the only question is what we keep saying, and it's the dilemma for them as well, is that if Liverpool come calling for him, he's had a club where he's been there since he's a kid. Yes. And it's like, this is your big chance. You're in the Premier League, you're playing regularly, you're going to get picked, you're going to be in the shop window, etc. But then I guess it's a question of, well, what are you in the shop window for? Because Liverpool have just won the European Cup. Liverpool have just finished a point short of winning the title. If they're knocking now, maybe now is the time to go. And maybe Liverpool think now is the time to buy before he gets any better and goes into the bracket of being the uncle obvious type signing where he's suddenly 40, 50 and 60 million. So yeah, I mean, you presented some options, didn't you, on your agenda, and he was the one that I quite liked the look of. I think again in terms of profile and stuff, it sort of fits. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think it does feel like Liverpool need to do something around the fullbacks because, you know, Klein's gone, Moreno's gone. And you just think, you know, there's no way Milner's going to sign up for another season playing fullback. Like, he moaned his arse off when he played there. And he did the job because he's a professional and he's a great fella. But, you know, if Klopp came knocking again, and you'd just be like, fucking hell, lad. I've just won the European Cup. I'm in the twilight of my career and you want me to do that again? Come on, mate.
Yeah.
So it does feel like they need to do something. And yet you've got lads, you know, knocking around in the resis and stuff who can maybe come in and do a job. But it just feels like you need someone there's a gap there, isn't there? You know what I mean? So you got the potential lads, you got the definite first teamers. There's someone needs to fill in here, and it is a little bit of a surprise that we haven't been linked with more.
Yeah, we'll have to watch the space to see exactly what gets filled in that left back sandwich. Big thank you to Robbo and to Dan. As always, look out for the next one of these that will probably be coming quick smart. Tell us how you feel about this one in the comments, subscribe, and do all those wonderful things.